Oh dear, dang it, dang it, dang it! It happened again. There was a lawyer, a woman, I believe, wrote on Substack a very useful list of how to resist the tyrannies of the Trump executive orders. I was going to comment and thank her first, then ask what she thought of or knew of the basis for the tyrannical powers, these tyrannical powers that he is exercising, that seem to be written into our founding documents. I cannot find her piece. I cannot find her name. It's disappeared into the great ether that is Substack, and couldn't comment anywhere without subscribing, which was not cheap. And the Socratic critique of this paid subscribe before you can participate goes a long way to undermining her various otherwise heroic stances. It guarantees the echo chamber like nothing else. As previously, we buy the newspaper that says what we already think, then tell ourselves we are informing ourselves. As people are being fired from their jobs, by men who didn't hire them in the first place, without apparent cause, I would just ask what body of law empowers the president or his unelected henchmen to do this? And why, as she was assuming we were, why are we so unfree psychologically as to assume the tyrannies are unassailable? There is something here that smacks of projection. The Democrat assumption that Trump voters are at best deluded or evil otherwise leads me where democratically. And the reverse is also true. The Trump voter believes the Democrat is inherently evil. We ain't going nowhere with that democratically. I've often thought over the years that if I was hauled up before a HUAC-type tribunal, I'd assume I could defend my very defensible self against anything like that body's assumptions, because I live in a free country. But we don't seem to believe this in general. Or maybe we know that it is not a free country, or not that free. Even other white men for whom this freedom on the evidence should be assumable. Do we operate culturally with a built-in enemy complex? I ask myself. Lots of people say lots of times we cannot trust the state. The left says it, the right says it, the high and the low say it. Jen Psaki smirks when she speaks of state-run media, and no one asks, do you prefer Bezos media or Musk X media? How will democracy ever function if we had one, if we don't trust the state on some very deep level? Or if we distrust the state in a democracy, aren't we just distrusting ourselves? Come on. Finally, on the lawyer's piece, there was a sense that we were Democrats, that some of us had strayed and voted unadvisedly. So it's our fault. Well, I ask you what I ask all others. What do you do with a party that is okay with messianic genocide? Twice. Both candidates. On Bet Media, there was a discussion about Trump's amoral compass, transactional, they call it, spitting out the word, as opposed to zealous belief in moral supremacy, the core of America's self-identified identity, the core of the monotheisms. The golden rule is not a statement of morality. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you is just common sense, transactional. Hate it if you like. The country was founded to make profits for its founders and those who would elect them, not, as many perceive with expensive educations, that Joseph of Arimathea came here with the Holy Grail and hid it somewhere. Didn't happen. That which might have happened but didn't, to let democracy flourish, and how halos were fashioned by bad poets forever. Ash Sarkar of Navarra Media, a very bright woman, has a very bright moment when she stumbles upon some detritus around the Julius Caesar myth. Well, it turns out that Caesar had some pretty egalitarian notions in mind for Rome, and the aristocratic Senate killed him. Therefore, then Ash makes the groovy move that libs do. But the price was autocracy. So the halo-painting poets of low repute shuffled into cozy garrets and trotted out the rot that grounds the fiction of Western civilization, making Caesar a tyrant. By the way, Shakespeare was not one of those poets. Stupid as his experts like him, Shakespeare had an autocrat in town, wrote a play to please her and to warn the aristocracy against regicide, which the aristocracy was dead keen on, often. It was the measly-minded that made of Brutus a democrat, a brick in a wall that stands there still. In 1381, the English peasants struck London like a thunderbolt. The masses, as the modern world ponders that England, they imagine the villain, the serf, illiterate, lazy, stupid, little better than animal, that suddenly struck with great organization, purpose, and speed. The demands were articulate and thorough, but not against the king. Not against Richard II at 14. The day went badly, as we should all know, and reprisals began against the agricultural workers of an agricultural land who had based their claims on Jesus, having said nothing of an anointed ruling class. All men were equal under God and his sub, the king. They meant it 395 years before Thomas Jefferson lied about it. What might Caesar have done, we'll not know, thanks to you-know-who, and what might Richard II have done were he not 14 and surrounded by a disgusting passel of plantation owners and clerics. Apparently the last straw was Aristos demanding the services of peasant women, the last of many straws. Now, I'm not a king person, but I'm surrounded by them, king persons, or worse. Quote, Adam digged and Eve span, where then was the gentleman? End quote, asked John Ball. He didn't ask about kings. The Bible is full of monarchs, fathers, and even mothers of their people, but not aristocrats. No consortium of legacy idlers. The Romans of Caesar lit up this king instinct in people before his heir crushed the next populist movement in Judea, led by a young man with a distaste for moneylenders that now run the superpowers. It is Augustus who is the hero of Jefferson, the leader who would say, like the Democrat, "You can't act in your own best interest, let me do it for you," end quote. The Democrat is strong in you, Luke. It is. It is here. The jealous and petty dukes, earls, and senators of modern democracies with their less educated but super wealthy cronies have co-opted the great sounds of democracy and freedom for hundreds of years, describing what went before us as hell, meant for burning sinners. So gullible we walked into what the elites still love, their impunity. Marx pronounced his ideas, often biblical, would only work with literate people, people who could think for themselves, as if literate people think for themselves. Pericles and Themistocles probably thought the same. 1381 proved the people ain't so dumb as they hoped, the illiterate, that thinking for oneself is not what the literate do. Marx also warned against the forked tongue of those who worked not at all, read the best books, Shakespeare even, and made up for themselves what they were not. Orwell should be read on the same nightstand with Shakespeare. As no actor can play Julius Caesar anymore as written, the society becomes vulnerable to a bevy of frauds, while the lean and hungry hover around Congress wagging fingers and tutting. The literate class saw its chance, took it, and called it America. They spread rumors they were born to serve, perhaps believed the story themselves. The last round of confirmation hearings with Elizabeth Warren unbearably squawking about how stupid everyone else is, from Russians to lifers in the U.S. military, made me hang my head and cry, not for the kings, for the next step we never took, the one that overwhelmed minnows like Elizabeth and Brutus. Elizabeth Warren, not Elizabeth I. It hasn't happened yet, but tomorrow is another day, so please, please, please get out of the way.